Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at rhetorical knowledge. Rhetorical knowledge is the skill set that you need to be a good writer, an informed reader, and to engage in intelligent discussion. There are several different aspects to rhetorical knowledge, and the one we're going to cover today is message. So let's take a look at message. All right. So with message, you want to take into consideration what is the message that you want to communicate. So as a writer, you're sitting down to write something. This could be within any kind of piece. It could be poetry. It could be a narrative. It could be a short story. It could be an essay. It could be a really strong, persuasive speech. Okay, regardless of what type of piece you're creating, what is the message that you want to get across? What is that, if you were to distill that and really boil that down to just a few words or just a single sentence, what is the core of that message? I think it's very important to identify that as a writer up front so that you know exactly what you're trying to say. I also want you to identify what is the research that backs up your message. This is really, I just cannot overemphasize the importance of this. These days with the internet and people sharing information that's blatantly incorrect, information that does not come from qualified sources, information that's clearly been falsified and so forth, and then kind of gets wrapped up into themes of propaganda and fake information and stuff like this. This stuff can be really dangerous. So for you as a writer, I really want to emphasize, please look at your research. Okay, make sure that you are identifying the thought leaders, the researchers, and the academics that are in this field who support your message. Okay, make sure that they're in that field. So for example, if you are going to go on and discuss a medical issue, make sure that you are tapping into research that comes specifically from the medical community. Okay? Match up your research, make sure that it matches up the research, the information itself with that field. Make sure that it is accepted by that field. Really important. If you're going to come out and talk about information from psychology or psychiatry, it should match up with the academics in that field. Okay, make sure that you're doing that, because sure, there are going to be a lot of people who have their 10 cents worth of opinion about any topic, but they may not be working in that field. They may not have done the research themselves. They may not have the skill set to be a peer reviewer. And following along those kinds of lines of where you're collecting information from people who are not experts can then sink your message. And I don't want that to happen. Make sure that your message has been fact-checked, okay? It's always good to sit there and to double-check everything that you're putting into your message, okay? If this is an essay, if this is a short story, whatever it's going to be, if it's going to be a speech, anything, make sure that you have fact-checked it, okay? Take the time to do that. Is this message controversial? And if so, how will you manage that? You always want to take into consideration every topic on earth these days is controversial on some level. Someone else is going to disagree with that. Okay, so expect that that's going to be the norm. But how will you manage that in advance? Have you done enough research that you can validate your opinion with strong research that backs it up, that's factual? Make sure that you have. That's going to be really important. Take into consideration, what are the opposing views to your message? And in what ways are those views valid, or at least do they make good points? I think that one of the things that we've lost as a society is the ability to recognize that when someone disagrees with us, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're stupid. When someone disagrees with us, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are evil or bad or have terrible intentions or something like that. Sometimes people just have different viewpoints. And sometimes when people have different viewpoints, you know what? Sometimes the opposing view can actually make some pretty good points. And that's okay. We can still disagree, and we can still also acknowledge, you know what? You've got a good point there, but I still disagree because I think that this information that I'm presenting is more valuable, more important, leads to a more positive conclusion, and so forth. Okay? Take into consideration how might you refute the opposing voices. Okay? And how are you going to do that in a respectful manner that's not creating really negative, dark argument, but instead, how can you keep that tone professional? How can you keep it respectful so that all parties can have their views heard, but that you can get your view across? You want to get your message across. Again, coming back to what's that core of your message, right? That's what you want to get across. You want to use that research to back it up. You want to verify that your research comes from academics in the field, that it's been fact-checked. And if it's controversial, how are you going to manage that? Okay? What are the opposing views? In what ways might those opposing views be valid? And how might you refute those opposing voices? Alrighty? So, rhetorical knowledge. It includes several different aspects. This is message. So I want you to take this into consideration as you go to do your writing and as you're reading pieces that you will be evaluating as a reader. I hope that this is helpful to you, and good luck with your writing.